Well, welcome everyone to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner, thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, our room this morning is 3 steps to effective capacity planning. So let me introduce myself quickly. I think I know I can see somebody that I know in Clubhouse. So welcome this morning. But my name is Lynda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert. And I've been hanging around public practice now for just over 30 years and having a whale of a time while I've been doing it. So we've had some busy weeks in the lead up to this Clubhouse this morning. And of course, I have my amazing co-host, Kyelie Baxter, hanging out at the airport with us. How cool is that, Kyelie?
Good morning. It's like so quiet here at the Gold Coast Airport, but apologies for background noise if you can hear that. It's a bit noisy here. Good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to having a chat about capacity planning today. It's one of those things where we're in the midst of the depths of the busy time, but we do need to turn our minds to next financial year and what we've got and what can we do. So, yeah, that will be good.
It will be.
Sitting in the airport. I'm actually sitting in the airport this morning because we're off to the Australian Accounting Awards that are on in Sydney tomorrow night.
Exciting.
Exciting but cold, Lynda.
Oh my gosh. I know, right? But you've had we've had a warm up of cold weather here, so you should almost be acclimatized, Kyelie. I think you'll sail through. I think you'll be right.
We'll see. Watch out for photos. We'll see how we go.
Sure will. And look, good luck for the awards. We wish you all the best, and we know you're going to rock it in regardless of whatever.
Yeah, thank you. I think being a finalist is like the award in itself.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Okay, so capacity planning. Do you do it effectively? Do you overcomplicate it? Or perhaps you don't even do it at all. Relax. It doesn't need to be difficult. So we're going to try and break that down into some easy steps and just 3 steps so that you can build an overall firm budget for client work. That's what capacity planning is. Setting some turnover goals is always very good as well, and establishing what staff you need and scheduling of client work, another important part of capacity planning. So I think the place to start is we're still, Kyle, if we think about our financial year here in Australia, and for anybody else that is listening in from anywhere else or streams this from anywhere else, the end of our financial year is the 30th of June. And what a lot of firms are still doing at the moment, because of the year that was, we're still struggling a little bit with our lodgement requirements, and that's still happening. We've had, big impacts on our staffing and our capacity due to COVID and sickness and just a whole lot of really displacement of our workforce. And also, too, if you are somebody that does tax planning, you are smack bang in the middle of tax planning or tax estimates for next year. So that's if you're in the US market, it's tax estimates. That's what they call our tax planning. So it's very busy, right, Kyelie?
It is absolutely mental. We are one of those firms that do tax planning quite extensively. This year we've changed it up a little bit, and we're actually giving every single client a full report afterwards.
Wow.
My goodness.
Oh, wow. That's full on then.
Yeah,
wow.
To be really honest about it, we're short-staffed.
Yes.
I think I wouldn't be the only practitioner that puts their hand up and says, yeah, we're understaffed at the moment. Yeah. So I think today's conversation is super important for anybody that has ever said, I'm exhausted, we're busy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How did this happen?
Yes.
This is a really important discussion to have.
It is, because I think it's just the fact of facing up to those facts and looking at what it is and actually getting some data to help you move forward, isn't it really? Is to accept what is and to look at how you could maybe make some small changes just to be able to change something around what your workplace is like, or your capacity is like. So there is more to accounting than just doing the work. Kyelie and I talk about that all of the time. So I like to refer that as the business of accounting. And certainly the efficient and effective use of your team comes into that. So much more than doing the work, but I understand it seems to be really, Lynda, you want us to look at the next year ahead. We haven't finished the last year yet. We are exhausted. We're a little overwhelmed, and sometimes it can be a little bit hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But now is exactly the time to have a quick look at this. And it doesn't need to be hard, does it, Kyelie?
It doesn't need to be hard. It can be quite simplistic. And I think one of, my favorite sayings is, remembering that definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And I feel like as public practitioners, we do get really stuck in that rut where we're just so busy helping our clients and doing that client work that we don't stop and take the time to assess, hey, how could my own business be better? Why do we have so much work? Are we working efficiently and effectively? Two very different things. And do we have enough resources? So that's really what today's capacity planning discussion is about in a nutshell. Although I do note that you've called it 3 steps to effective capacity planning. So I'm also looking forward to learning.
I will help you out with that, Kyelie, no doubt whatsoever. We will get 3 steps out by the end of it. So, Kyelie, I did just want to chat a little bit first also about playing or working in the advisory space. So doing more than compliance with your clients. And I think, if I can align working in your business and having a look at your own capacity and your resources and everything you just said a minute ago, really important to walk your own talk, right? If you're over there, educating clients and advising clients to help them with their business, it needs to start in your own backyard.
Absolutely. And I think we all always also forget that clients look at us like we're their best example. You know what I mean? So they are looking and seeing what we're doing and thinking, do I want to apply that in my own business? So if we are constantly stressed, constantly planning, we've got too much work, constantly blah, blah, blah.
I'm busy. I'm too busy. Yes.
Right. Like we have to really think to ourselves, well, what message is that sending them about the quality of our advice, particularly in that advisory space where we're really trying to, help grow their business or whatever we're trying to do. So we have to keep that in mind. One of the things that I always do at this time of year, because I see every single one of my business clients, basically they say, how are you going? We know it's a busy time of the year. And I say, yes, it's exceptionally busy, but it's just this time of the year. So it's just a season, basically.
Yes. So that's part of the way that you speak about that you language that to yourself, that helps you just go, it's just this time, it's not forever, I'll be okay. So part of that's for you and part of that's for clients,
Yeah. And the reason that I know it will be okay is because of the capacity planning
that you do. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think also too, as accountants, we are numbers people. We love our spreadsheets. We love our formulas, and we are notorious for complicating these things. So I think, again, Kylie's already mentioned that is to keep it simple. It doesn't need to be overly complicated, because what can often happen is if we feel like we're overcomplicating it, we need every little bit of detailed information and it needs to be exactly right, 100%. Guess what happens? Capacity planning or budgets never get in place till November. And then you're almost halfway through the year and we see budgets not get into place or not really knowing where you're at. So there's some strategy in just keeping it simple. So there is the one really good chance right now to have a look at it, keep it simple. and not think about, I'll do that in July, magic July, when everything gets done here in Australia in the accounting world, apparently.
Yeah, and like just to be real about it, I think capacity planning is one of the first things that you need to do. You can't create a budget without having done your capacity planning, because when you do this, I feel like we're saying this with capacity planning a lot, but when you do it, it actually tells you what your billable ability within your firm is. So if your billable ability ends up being, let's say, 700,000, but you want to bill $900,000 from a budget point of view, there's a disconnect there, and that means I've got to make some decisions. Or if your billable capacity is 900,000, but you've only got $700,000 worth of clients, we've still also got a problem.
Exactly.
So it has to. Don't start at the budget, and I think a lot of people have budgets, but they haven't ever done capacity planning.
No,
and there's a real disconnect there.
Exactly. And I think this goes back to, if you're thinking about your budget, it goes back to the top half of our P&L, right? It's right at that cost of goods sold, turnover level. This is exactly where capacity planning plays. And it's very much about the efficiency and effectiveness of your resources and what that actually looks like. Because I've seen that exact example that you just talked about there, Kyelie, in many practices. I've seen directors and partners basically just throw out, I want to turn over $3 million this year, or we were 2.5 last year, so I want to do 3 million this year. And they put all the budgets in place and say this team can do that and that team can do that. But if you, number one, also don't actually have the work for 3 million in turnover, well, there's your first problem. The second problem is, do you have the staff to even do that? And if you do, then what do you do about going out and finding that work if that's what you want to do? So there's a lot of really cool information that comes out of this. So we're suggesting that this is the place to start. Yeah.
100%. It really opens up a lot of questions and answers. So,
absolutely.
Let's
get stuck into it. All right. So I think if we're talking about the 3 steps, I think the first step is simply the mechanics. How do you build this budget? What are the numbers and what do we look like? What are we looking at? What's the information we need? So for me, it's fairly straightforward. We have a team member. We have their normal hours that they work a week by the number of weeks that they work in a year times an appropriate productivity rate. And we'll talk about each of these elements of this formula in a little bit more detail. We'll break that down. Times their productivity rate times their charge out rate. Okay, fairly simple formula. Is your formula any different to that, Kyelie?
No, not really.
No.
About the same, yeah.
Straight up, put it in a spreadsheet, let it, put some formulas in, let it calculate. That is going to give you a dollar value for that team member that if they meet those KPIs, they are capable of billing. Now, that doesn't mean that billing is actually going to eventuate for a number of reasons. Like I just said, they've got to have the work first. And then they've also got to work to those productivity levels and be able to achieve that. So, and of course, then you've got the play of right on, right off, and those sorts of things when it comes to actually invoicing the client, if that's part of your business. So let's talk about team members easy, the hours they work a week, pretty easy. Let's, however, talk about something we find subjective in the accounting industry is the number of weeks. Now, we've got 52 weeks in a year, right? But no one works 52 weeks in a year. So what's the number that we use? What's the number that you use, Kyelie?
Well, the number that I use has changed over the last few years.
Has it? Yeah, okay.
Actually.
That's interesting.
And let's talk about why. And it's got to do with the lovely pandemic that we had, and even more recently, the flu. So historically, and I'll say 5 years ago, really pre-pandemic, I think people, I had to push my staff on their 4 weeks annual leave. You'd see a lot of people really building that up. And I will go on the record and say none of my staff, not one of them, would have ever had 10 sick days in a year.
Wow.
Or personal leave days.
There you go.
Not one of them. And that's probably got to do a little bit with our culture. We work collaboratively. It's a very team environment. They don't want to let each other down. Then moving into the pandemic, I introduced a 0 sick policy. So basically that means if you're sick at all, you
You're
cannot
out.
come to work.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
You're out. And really, I did that in mind with the whole, if you recover quickly, then you'll be back at work better and that sort of thing. And that's working really well for us. However,
Excellent.
I will say it's a huge shift in the, just a mindset shift for the team. Because do you know how hard it is to not let people work? Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, I think we've all been brought up a little bit with that, whether you want to call it work ethic or cultural sort of social impact of, well, you got a sniffle, harden up, off you go to work. But we know now in the current climate that a sniffle can mean a whole lot more. It's not just a sniffle anymore.
So I work on 42 weeks now, which people die at.
Yes.
Which obviously is N weeks and a massive proportion
of
the weekly year.
But this is great.
Come to that.
Yes, this is great.
And I, you know me, I'm not one to shy away from stuff. If
No.
I want to do something, I'll do it good. So that's how I come up with my 42. But I know, right, 4 weeks annual leave, if you take it or not my problem. I want you to take it. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting married and saving for an 8-week holiday, case around, but whatever.
Yes.
So the 10 weeks personal day, the 10 days personal days, is another 2 weeks. So that's how we get to 6. We're pretty much finding people are having to take them now, and not only for themselves, but for family.
For family and caring. Okay.
Caring,
Yes.
And that's exceptionally important, and we're really trying to change that culture of you've got to be on death's door to use them. No, they're there for a reason.
Yes,
so that's
correct.
how we get to 6. Then we get another 2 for professional development days. Now that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Another 10 days for PD.
No.
But really, by the time all of my professional staff get 2 fully paid out of the office CPD days, that's 2. You add another day or so of travel in there for that. And then we do in-house PD sessions at least half of the year, every single week. So when you consider that they sometimes present at them and they need to prepare, 2 weeks is probably on the
verge of just enough. Yes. Yeah, look, I've seen that used before, Kylie. I have seen professional development taken into it because realistically, we're a CPA discussion group here. And so as a CPA, you've got to do your hours, and it does take, you're right, there's travel. And there's also, the preparation if it's anything that you need to prepare for yourself. So absolutely.
That's right. And the way I do that is some people would argue, well, hang on, that's why their productivity is not 100% because they get that professional development in that time.
Yes.
So I'll talk to you about how I deal with that shortly.
Okay.
And then I add another 2 weeks for all the fun stuff.
Nice.
So we have, I think we have about 4 fun days a year where we just close the office. Like, for example, through all fault of our own and, with all prior planning, our office will be closed on Friday because we'll be recovering from Thursday night. So, there's things like that where we just make no apology and we just close the office and it's team building and clients are better off for it. We're available for emergencies only. But remembering, we're accountants, so accounting emergencies.
Yes.
I shouldn't.
No one's going to die with an accounting emergency, are they? I think we're fairly safe. No, you wouldn't think so. No.
That's how I come up with my 42.
I love it. 42. So tell me though, I just want to ask one more question in there because there's another thing that falls into there that I've seen used as well is public holidays. So here in Australia, we have another 2 weeks of those. Another 10 days. So do you believe that with the public holidays and the fun stuff and maybe a bit of the training that it sort of all works out a little bit in the wash and that's why you don't include them as well? Yeah. Okay.
I do. And to be honest, I used to work on 46.
Yes.
And then I went to 44 and now I'm at 42. And I'm telling you what, I can't go lower than 42
No.
because everyone charge out rates will go through the roof.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Okay. All right. And it's interesting then if we look at this, and I hadn't thought about this, I'm just going to throw that out there, but we had a discussion about a 4-day work week as well, just recently. And I hadn't even thought about that in what that does to capacity as well, or if it does, So there's even more to consider. I think we might see this as a changeable landscape going forward, Kyelie.
Yeah, my argument with the 4-day work week would be that it did not change.
No.
If I was ever to do a 4-day work week, it would be 5 days in 4 days.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
same amount of work, but 4 days. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Okay, so if everyone's got that, we start at 52 weeks. In Kylie's world, what she does is, and I think in everyone's world, you've got to take off the 4 weeks of annual leave that is statutory. So that comes off. In our current environment, certainly the argument for adding in the sick leave, because it's important that people recognise that they do use that it is there for them. Look, it is statutory as well, but it's, obviously you take it or you don't take it. But encouragement to take it, to keep all of our team and our workplaces safe and healthy and ongoing. And then another 2 weeks for training, for professional development, personal development, and then another 2 weeks for the fun stuff, Kyelie calls it. So all that comes out in the wash, and that comes out to 42 weeks a year for what you use. Now, you can build that however you think is appropriate, and obviously, like any type of budget, these are just the assumptions you make. This is not hard data. The way life works, the way people work, it may work very well. It may also be just, something that's an estimate for you to build on. So you've got to test and trial it. But, I think that's a good summary, Kyelie. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's really cool.
Pleasure.
Okay, so we've got the team member, the normal hours they work a week by the number of weeks. Whether that is 46, 44, I actually had 42, and I did even have a 40 in my notes because, golly gosh, there's lots going on. So then by their productivity. Now, here's another rather subjective number in the formula. So productivity, I think, again, if we go back five years or so, if we think about traditionally for accountants that are doing compliance work and regular compliance work, they're not sort of dabbling too much in anything else, there was a fairly stock standard productivity rate of 85%. Is that what you had found, Kyelie, or had used in the past for a professional team member?
Historically, yes. That has changed over the course of time.
Yes.
For remote-only staff, like I've got onshore accountants that work, in other locations, Victoria and Tasmania and whatnot. So I actually use a much higher percentage for them because
when they're on, they're on.
Staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't train other staff. They don't, they're just not involved in any office stuff. So they're basically there for a reason.
And they don't have the meetings and they don't, they're just there. They come on, they log on and they work. I've also seen a much higher rate used for offshore staff. If you have some outsourcing that you're doing, they work out, because of the way they work, their productivity for the hours that you pay for are really quite high. They're in the 95%. So, again, because they're not involved in training that's done outside of the hours often that you pay for, or, that's something that their company looks after, and so they're also not in those office meetings generally, or dragged down with administration or supporting others. So okay, so argument for higher productivity rates with remote staff. Cool. What about your in office team or your
mostly 85. However, I will put some staff to 90 at their request, depending on salary reviews and discussions like that. Additionally, I will drop staff depending on their personal preference. So as far as, I've got some at 75%. And these are team members that generally will come to me and say things like, look, next year it's my last year in my CPA, so I really want to do a good job here, and I want to really smash that out and make sure I don't have to repeat any subjects. So I want to make sure that I'm performing well, but that the pressure isn't as much, and I'm
Yes.
finding the billing pressure a lot. So
Yeah.
what can we do about it?
Yeah. Okay. And I also, so do you have in your firm somebody that is also managing other team members? Have you taken into account a reduction in productivity where they're overseeing team members as well?
We run a really flat sort of
Flat. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so no.
No. So I have seen that also done where you can have certainly teams, whether they're in pods, where you've got a manager and you might have a senior and you might have a couple of intermediates and a grad that actually form a little team or a little pod in its own right. I've seen the manager, down as low as 65%, depending on however many team members they are managing. And also where you're in that more of a silo type setup. So productivity there for managing people or training can certainly come into that. But what I love just about what you said there, Kyelie, was that you do the productivity rate in conjunction with that communication with your team. That's fabulous.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be consultation, because one of the things that, well, I'm sure we'll discuss is capacity planning. Not only do we do it to figure out, well, what's our client base and what can we do, but we also reverse engineer it to go, well, this is your budget, staff member. And we're all accountants. We know if staff makes their budgets, then we need to pay them more. And if they don't make them, well, apparently we're not allowed to pay them less. So, that's how it works.
No, that's how it works. Yes, it's exactly right. All right. So that's productivity of team members. Let's talk about productivity of owners, directors, and what that should look like. How do you work out your own, Kyelie? Who do you consult to work out your own?
It's a really, really awesome question, and I love this. So I actually discuss this openly with my team at our, we have a big
planning day
in July.
Yeah,
Actually, we're going to do a little bit of this on Friday morning in our post-recovery brunch.
Nice.
For me, one of the biggest things that waste my time and pull my productivity down is when people try and send things to me before they're actually ready. So it's when reviews go back and forwards, and forwards, or people rely on me to give them a quick answer rather than try and learn it themselves. It's all about reminding people. However, the biggest trick to keeping my productivity up is time blocking. I know that if I go, this is my meeting times, this is when clients can book, this is when I see staff and talk to staff. I do most of my reviewing of jobs out of hours, and that works for me and my family, so that's fine. It would work for everyone. So I am able to keep my productivity rate fairly high, which at the moment is necessary because
you're understaffed and you need to be on the tools. So, got it. Okay, so what have you used in the past, Kyelie? I've seen some, depending on too, if partners or directors are involved in the practice management or the business side of the business, depending on how big your firm is. Do you have some sort of allowance for that in your productivity rate?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I'm just actually working out what my current productivity rate is. So give me 1 second.
Sure.
Just talk amongst yourself, Lynda.
Sure, I will do that. So what I have seen definitely is, often in a larger firm too, you'll have one partner that deals more specifically with the practice management side or the business. And so I have seen a reduction in another 5% or so in their productivity to allow for that. And I think that's something that we all need to take into account, because even if you are an accounting business of one, someone still has to do this as well. So you've got to be, capacity planning is all about being realistic as well. There's no point in putting these amazing things in place, stressing yourself out, trying to meet these budgets, or the pressure that comes with, wow, I've got to line up to this productivity rate. I've got to, build this much and all of that, because that's just adding undue pressure where it's not needed and extra stress where it's not needed. The other side of things too is also when you are a partner director, you may also, depending on what's agreed amongst the business owners is that there would be a certain amount of business development that needs to go on. So the finding of new clients, the networking, the fostering relationships with strategic alliances, fostering relationships with prospective clients. So I've also seen allowances for that as well. There is an argument to say that look just comes in, every partner has that, and that just comes in as far as the practice management business side of things go. But you've got to think about that too, because as a partner and director, for the business's sake, where is your best time spent? If you are the technical partner, the person that's watching quality control and keeping up to date and make sure everything's going on there, then perhaps you don't have that allowance in your productivity rate. But for the part that, and you often see this, you see opposites sort of come together in business, a really strong technical partner and somebody who, you know, traditionally they've called them rainmakers. So somebody that is able to go out, forms relationships easy, talking to clients, bringing new clients in, and they have allowances for different things. So I think there's a lot that can go into this productivity rate. It is subjective, and I love that you do it on a consultative basis, Kyelie. So did you find out your product? Excellent.
I did. So my productivity rate at the moment is sitting at about 65%.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that I budget mine at 40. So
yes.
That makes sense to me.
Yes.
What's been going on.
Yes.
So that's financial year to date.
Yes.
So I budget mine at 40 because I do all that
yes,
stuff. I do all the business development. I do all of that stuff. I do have a junior partner as well.
Yes.
She's she's fully on the tools, but her responsibilities have nothing to do with bringing in clients.
Yeah.
She doesn't really, she's more in the business, making sure it's all going well, not on the business, which is
and she would fall more into that technical partner side a little bit more. Yeah. Absolutely. And that number that you pulled out, that budget, that 40% of where you had started is very classic. You know, as a partner director, if you've got, you know, responsibilities to run the business, there's a lot of argument that your productivity rate should not be over 50. And, you know, again, that brings into account it's where are we most comfortable? We might be most comfortable working and smashing out 75% productivity rate, but what's that doing for your business? Are you doing everything that you should be doing as a partner and in relation to your people management and all of those other things? Perhaps you're not so comfortable there, but I also have to think that it's like, well, all the glory's not in pumping out the work. Although sometimes, exactly as you've just found, Kyelie, it needs to be done. And that's exactly right. It's a season and it will end. There is light at the end of the tunnel. All right. There is light. Okay. So dealt with productivity, charge out rates. Look, I think, you know, there again, something else that can be subjective. I don't really want to get too much into charge out rates this morning because they can be, you know, almost a discussion on their own. But, you know, is there any tips or tricks that you use with charge out rates, Kyelie, when you're setting those?
Look, charge out rates really are the key factor in determining what your staff member is paid.
Yes.
You also need to make sure that you're covering your own costs. So they can't just, like if people say to me, I just don't even know where to start, the place to start is how much does that person actually need to charge even just to cover their own cost and their share of the incidental costs of the business. So that's where it's got to start.
Yes.
Very, very minimum.
Exactly.
So,
And I think, you know, look, traditionally in the industry, we have used a third. Look, if that's where you start, fine, that's great. But you want to have a really good look at the actual costs of your business because it may not be that. Because again, you may be putting unrealistic targets and things in place for team members. And that's just not going to help your budgeting and planning either, is it?
No, and I want to say with specifically the new generation or the next generation of accountants, a third doesn't necessarily work anymore because they don't want to work full time.
No.
They want to work flexibly. They want to do this, they want to do that, you know. like this is controversial, but people working 3 days a week are not 60%. You know, they're more like 50 to 55%, and that's just the way it is.
Yes.
So you have to be really careful about building out your budget on that old school method of a third, and then wondering why it doesn't work. For some staff members, it will work, and others, and I'm going to say the majority, it just won't.
No, it won't. And I think then, you know, what it can do is feed into this negative loop of why even bother with capacity planning, because it never works. It's because
that's when we have to go back.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're right. It's exactly that. It's because we've not put the time and the effort and the thinking into what we're actually doing here. We're just going by rote. Here's what we did last year, when, Kyelie, like you've exactly said, the landscape of our businesses, our world, our talent pool, everything has changed dramatically over the last 5 years, and definitely over the last 2 years.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, we need to make sure that while we're setting our staff and our teams these budgets, we're also setting them up for success. Have we invested in IT systems, processes that really allow them to do their job effectively and efficiently? Because if the answer to that's no, but we're still expecting them to bill 3 times their salary, how is that fair to anyone?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, again, I think too, what I have also seen, look, I've worked with a lot of accounting firms over the years, and been privy to a lot of this information of inside an accounting firm, and talked to a lot of different team members. And capacity planning can be one of the most demotivating things to ever happen in a practice if it's not done in the right way, if it's not considered, if it's not realistic. And I love your extra bit there, Kyelie, if it's not consultative. So I think you can really shine with capacity planning if you put those 3 things into place. Is that a fair statement?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the mechanics. I think that's the biggest part of it. But the thing is, there were only sort of 3, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different components of that formula. I wouldn't get too involved in anything else. The hardest thing is probably working out what number of weeks you want to use, what productivity each team member is involved in, and perhaps having a really good look at your charge out rates. And just one more thing with charge out rates. Look, Business Fitness, the good, the bad, the ugly here in Australia is a great report. They often do issue some stuff around charge out rates. You can go back and have a look at things like that if you're looking for a guide. So that's not a bad place to start. I'm sure perhaps in the public practice area on CPA Australia as well, there's probably some stuff about charge out rates as well if we went and had a look. So yeah, I think there's plenty of information out there for us. All right, so step 1, the mechanics, how to build it. Step 2, I actually had down as test and measure. Kylie's, yeah. So it's all fine and well, you put this into place. What happens then? Do we set and forget, leave it, don't look at it until next year, or what happens?
No, so the billings and targets need to be reviewed all the time. Like I put it back on my staff that they need to keep track of their own, and I'm certainly reviewing it on at least a monthly basis, but it's more regular than that. You need to know whether people are sinking or swimming. And the reason is not because you want to know whether they're making money for you. It's actually because you want to know that the client work's getting done at the appropriate pace and speed. The last thing you want to do is get to the end of September and go, a quarter of the year's gone, let's have a look. No one's billing their budget. And I worked out that everyone had to be billing their budget to get through all our work. What does that mean for our lodging percentage?
That's exactly right. So again, there is more to the business of accounting than just, plodding along and doing the work. Not that anyone has been plodding over the last little while. There's been no time for plodding. It's been, work very hard. But absolutely, test and measure. Look at what's going on. Regularly review them. How often do you do that, Kyelie? Is it quarterly? Or just have a look?
No.
Or you're doing it more often?
No. Yeah, I'm looking monthly as a
right
system. Like I want to run month-end tasks, but just for interest, I'll look at specific staff members, both ones that I think are potentially overperforming and ones that I think are struggling a little bit, just on an ad hoc basis through the month.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then I had our 3rd step as refine. if you've tested and measured this, well, then you've got to change something if things need to be changed. And so it's a constant work in progress. And I again think that we've possibly viewed this thing, we've rushed about, put it in place, not really thought about it, got to, full through another 12 months, went, oh, well, that didn't go to plan. What's the use? And again, that negative feedback loop is actually happening. But if you're testing and measuring regularly and then actually refining it, because I imagine that you're making adjustments on the fly as needed, Kyelie, yes?
Look, I generally won't make an adjustment unless it's the end of a quarter.
Okay.
So I'll talk about it. We'll try and do some troubleshooting. We'll try and figure out exactly what the pain point is. We'll try and rectify it. So that's generally a 3-month process, but I'll make adjustments at the end of a quarter. And the reason that I do that is so that by the time it comes to performance discussions or salary reviews, it's not wishy-washy. We can clearly pinpoint this is what we did and when.
Yeah, perfect. And so I think that, this is part of identifying possible problem areas or issues or challenges that might be coming up in your business. Because if you let an undercapacity or, not turning around work quick enough, and like you just said before, that may impact obviously your lodgement schedule, what that looks like, turnaround times for client services is then impact. When you can do other type activities like tax planning and helping business owners with their businesses, this helps you identify it's something to measure up against the performance of the business and help you identify those things well before you're stuck in the quagmire of it all actually happening around you and it feels like there's nothing you can do. So there is definitely, this is some great information for you to actually use in running your business. And you said just that, Kyelie, you look at, all right, what's the pain point? Is there a pain point? What's going on? This would give some insight as to where you need to move or what you need to possibly do to be able to take that pain away.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, great. All right. So look, those were my 3 steps, the mechanics, test and measure, and then of course refine. And I think the tips and tricks with capacity planning is give it the time and the effort that it really deserves. Done well, this is an amazing part of your business and will really help you set turnover goals, set goals for employees, engage your employees with the business of accounting, engage them with client service and turnaround for clients, and so much more. Also being able to troubleshoot things when they come up. So it doesn't need to be complicated. Keep it as simple as you can. I think it's as easy as that. There are some subjective elements in it, but those subjective elements, we certainly heard from Kyelie, she does that then on a consultative basis with her team. So I love that about that. And look, aim for some great targets. You can always have a stretch target and then to know what you're going to achieve, because you put something out there as a bit of a stretch target, it's surprising what people will do. It's that old quote of aim for the stars and land on the moon. You're doing a pretty good job if you're landing on the moon. And of course, and of course with the capacity planning, it's definitely must be communicated. So Kyelie, do you talk about it during the year as well with the team? Like obviously there's some setting and there's some consultation in the setting. Is there team members that you talk about, this with during the year as well?
Yeah. I talk about it with the whole team. You have to do it in it feels like a kid's discussion, you do this in an age appropriate way, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But I think the situation really is from a team point of view, you have to tread lightly depending on what's going on. But definitely it needs to be discussed. And I like to do it in a group setting before you go to one-on-one person, where you can actually say to people, hey, look, we're really busy and there's people in this room that aren't quite filling the budget. I'm the team, we work collaboratively, which means, and that means this. that means that we're not getting the work done, turnaround times are pushing out, and we need to figure out what the problem is. And then I say, so if you guys have any idea of what this actual problem is that I might not have some insight over, please come and talk to me about it so that we can fix this.
How can we help each other? So you take that real team focus to things, that it doesn't all fall on one person's shoulders, particularly not the director or the owner. It is a team effort in doing that. That's great. Cool.
Yeah,
anything final to talk about capacity planning before you run off and jump on your plane, Kyelie?
Yes, I want to give one final tip, which might sound obvious, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, of course," but not everyone's has to be the same. You don't have to use the same weeks for all of this stuff. That sounds silly because we all know that the charge-out rate's not the same for all staff. But you just treat everyone the same, then everyone needs to be working the same hours, doing the same jobs, and that's just not what happens. So that's my first tip. The other tip to consider is making sure you've got the right staff for the right client work that you've got. It's one thing to go, right, we've got $500,000 worth of fees and $600,000 worth of ability to bill. So that's cool. We should be sweet. But what you don't realise is actually we've got mostly intermediate accountants, and I've just taken on $150,000 of senior level accounting work. So just, you do need to build on it and take it that step further.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kyelie. The insights that we get, from you are amazing, and we thank you for sharing and being so open with our listeners and, the people that stream and listen into what we're talking about, because it makes a difference. I'm sure everybody would agree. And so thank you very much for your time, and even doing Clubhouse in this chat in an airport. So that deserves a gold star, definitely. Done very, very well. So next week, we will be back again. It's another business of accounting discussion, and it's around building a budget that works. So we've started with the capacity planning. We said today that is the place to start. We need to look at that first. Then we'll have some tips around these budgets and what that needs to actually look like, the dollar values of what we do. And there's some hidden stuff and some tips and tricks in there that I don't think we consider always as well. So again, all of these things, when you do, I've seen accountants with their capacity planning realize how beneficial it has been for their firm. And what they've started doing is they've adapted capacity planning and what they do, adapted that to their clients' businesses, and used that at this time of year to help their clients actually plan and budget as well. So there is so much more to this than just your business. All these services can also be rolled out and adapted for clients. So that's a pretty cool thing, and a cool work for us to do as accountants if you're there helping out clients with those sorts of things. But next week, 22nd of June, we're almost at the end of the year, or end of our financial year here in Australia, building a budget that works. We'd love you to all tune in and talk to you then. Thank you again, Kyelie Baxter.
Thank you, Lynda. You do all the hard work on the TV show. So well
That's
done.
not true, everybody, but yes. Thanks, Kyelie. That's amazing.
Talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.